So think about this. In the spirit world, the ghostly phenomena. What are ghosts? We've talked about what demons are. Demons are the disembodied spirits from the Nephilim. The Nephilim were the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God. So when Yahweh, the God of the universe, had Satan and a third of the angels cast out of heaven, they were the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, that were cast out and came down, took human women, had unnatural sexual relations with women, and produced a hybrid offspring of giants called the Nephilim. The Nephilim were just horrible individuals. They became man-eaters because they couldn't be sustained anymore on the earth. And the Nephilim also went into the forest and had unnatural sex acts with beasts of the field. Apes, bears, dogs, wolves, and that, in my opinion, is the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Sabe creatures. They are the offspring of the offspring. So everything is connected. So the people say to me, how can you connect, God and the devil and angels with aliens and UFOs and Bigfoot? Well, you can. If you really do the studies, pray always first and then study, you can connect all the dots that way because it's true. Now, I've had experiences with all these types of things and beings and creatures. I know they're real because I've had the experience. So it is all very much connected. And in this book here, there's two versions of this, Strangely Fiction 1 and Strangely Fiction 2. It's connecting the dots about all this supernatural phenomena. So the ghostly phenomena, in my opinion, could be explained in two ways, perhaps. One is that it could be a residual effect, like a timestamp, from an energy of a person, place, or thing that could repeat itself over and over. And that secondly, if it is more intelligent and under control, then perhaps if we do have a soul, which I believe that we do, when we pass, supposedly the body becomes 17 grams lighter. And that is the soul departing, supposedly. But what if there is another life essence in the body as well? So if the soul departs, then maybe there's a second life essence that remains on the earth somehow, some way, that could be under an intelligent control, that could be producing the ghostly type of phenomena. Now, there are conservative Christians that, if they were here right now, they'd probably be rebuking me for what I'm saying. But Jesus himself, scripturally, was telling Peter and the apostles, fear not, I'm not a ghost. That's what he said in the scriptures. I'm not a ghost. It's me. I'm not a ghost. So obviously they knew something back then about ghostly phenomena. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any mention of it in the scriptures. So that's my best guess on how that type of phenomena could manifest. Now, I'll say another thing. With the ghostly phenomena, I've helped a lot of people that were paranormal investigators that said a little girl or a little boy came to them, a voice reached out to them and, asked for help and this and that. They went to help. They wanted to help because it's all our natural reaction. We want to help. And when that happened, their lives started to unravel. And something like that's taking place. That's what I call familiar spirit, which is a demon in disguise. So there are demons that could disguise themselves as a little boy, a little girl, a boy, oh, help me, help me, help me. And it's a devil the whole time reeling you in. I can't tell you how many people throughout my career that God has worked through me to help that were in that way. So with that, I guess we'll wrap it up. Are there any questions before we go? We're going to, if you want to come up and get a book and want me to sign it, we can do that. But Margaret, I think that's about it, right? So,
Yeah, we're just taking a break.
oh, you want to take a break and then come back and do the?
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's,
There's snacks back here.
yeah, so there's things there, and if you want to come up, get a book. But if anybody has any questions before we wrap this up, feel free to ask now or forever hold your peace. All right, thank you all very much. Come on up, get a book, take the break, get some snacks. Superfly Productions is here.
We're live. Say hi. Say hi. So we're gonna take a break.
You feeling all right?
Yeah. 1 sec. There's no way to pause this.
How are you? I'm making them out the both of you.
It doesn't.
It's my husband too? Yeah, it's fine.
So cash, you know, it takes cash, right?
I'm gonna get another card.
I don't know. Honestly.
Cash.
You know,
Are you need to take another one, Mike?
No, she wants to take one.
Sure.
I wonder if she can get Kayla. Yeah. Never thought about that. I don't think Kayla was really emotionally that type.
Well, we could help her, that's for sure. We can take care of that.
I'll talk to her. I'll get a card for her and her too. Was she saying she might, if I suggest it, probably more if you suggest it. I could. I could call her. All right. Actually, I'm not done now. When she got baptized and confirmed, we have to.
Sure, take the measure.
When she got baptized and confirmed, that was her. Yeah, Kayla was dedicated, but never officially.
Well, it's my honor to do so.
See what's in it. She's been in very big and she has witnessed so much trauma.
This book right here, I write about that, because I've had family members that have been things. have family members that have been addicted like that, and it's terrible.
She just turned 40.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Sure.
I've had family members die of
This on my
overdoses.
seat because she overdosed 3 times in Crusade.
Oh, that's. Wish they were all easy like that, Jeff.
Waiting for him to look up.
Oh no. Take it. Yeah.
All right, that's that.
Can you look up just for a second?
Sure.
That is.
Gotta forgive my caveman handwriting. Caveman 101.
Yeah, bro.
That's one thing, unfortunately, that didn't improve. My life improved greatly, but not my handwriting.
Did you ever do any work around the nail academy?
Take as many as you want.
Very smooth old guitars. My old guitars.
Okay.
I play drums.
Oh, yeah. I was in the boiler room at the Naval Academy for a long time, so I ran into so many people over the
Yeah,
years.
the first time I met him was at, what was the name of that bar?
Greenland Inn.
Greenland. Yeah. That's the Captain Box from Fort Farmer.
Okay.
Norman and Ann. God bless you.
God bless you as well for the flooding meeting.
Yeah, well, that was the bar.
Okay.
And I told the guy.
Very blessed with the angels that have been sent.
You are blessed.
I am.
You're absolutely
I
blessed.
know my husband is to help others.
And you know, when God puts that on you, you just, there's no going back from that. You just, you allow Him to guide you and how He will guide you.
And I always have feelings when someone needs help, so he has a conviction.
That's spiritual discernment. That's, I can look at you and see. You're very blessed. You're very gifted. Please keep, you have my card, right? Take a card. Okay, so what, signing to both? Really? No, there's gotta be more than that in there. There's exactly. My sign is.
Nice to meet you,
I know it, and thank God that, you know, I'd like to have more of these types of gatherings, because I really love seeing people. COVID messed all that up for a while, but hopefully that's all behind us.
This one's interesting. Butting in line.
Oh, you're good.
Oh,
Good, good, buddy. I'm good. I'm getting ready to go ahead and have food with him on double team.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll probably be up until 3 o'clock in the morning again.
So what?
He takes me double team.
Yeah.
Last time I seen him, I lived in the woods. And I was talking to my camp. He wasn't, yeah, I took him to my camp, and he wasn't even going back. He's like,
right.
okay, I get it.
You need anything, don't hesitate.
If you ain't going back, it's pretty bad.
I think I know you.
Behind the old jumper's wall. It's,
Well, I used to live in Glenburg. It was like 30 years ago.
it's Mountain Road up in there.
Here I was saying,
Where Alex is at.
just talk for a few minutes. There's so much.
No mountains.
Where
I'm
Alex
looking over at Margaret. She said, hey, we're doing
like nothing bothered me.
Of course, he's
I
got.
don't believe in change.
the worst.
Personally, I think
I guarantee you, it's bad.
we should think
Are you leaving there? Are you staying?
Good, how's that?
That's kind of.
I work some days.
You think we're the only things like us?
Yes.
Whole galaxy?
Are you the one that always like?
Huh?
Yes.
I'm just
Yeah,
looking.
this whole galaxy thinks we're the only things like,
Were they
we're not that
in line or?
right. So
I don't know. We were just looking at the
Plus,
stars. Just saying.
how you become a spirit
I know what I
is
got.
when you have a tragic death. like your blood brains out or whatever.
Yes.
That's the reason why Gettysburg is much
So it's
more
like that.
lights.
It's like
You never
that's
hear
where
of
the water
That's my
goes.
thing.
Well, I'm going
Some Gettys.
Go on ahead.
I
Right,
love
that's like that.
Gettysburg.
That's the reason
Yeah.
why.
My mother had a hotel there. She stayed in that hotel. There was activity in that hotel.
That's the reason why, because it's a tragic death.
Yeah.
When you blow your brains out or you get killed, or, you know,
Probably something to that. 'Cause
it's a tragic
kind of
death.
seems that way. You know, Gettysburg and other places.
You'll never need me, but if you do, well,
Here,
I don't think you're gonna need me with those angels around. You're not gonna need me.
Galaxy.
Those are mine.
Take that
Like
one too.
And I'm gonna picture too.
I was saying, the government knows that they won't let it loose because they just let COVID loose. Look what happened.
Thank you.
Can you imagine if they let
$20.
truth out about other people running for freaking try to charge and kill themselves? I mean, you can't let people lose their mind. You know, I know the truth. We're the only thing that all in the galaxy that's like us. There's no way.
Yeah, I got them. This is all you have, right?
No, I've written 10. I think only brought.
Oh my
Christ, you got 3 of them.
No. You cannot have.
You got
this
3 of them.
with Bill.
God. That's
Craig,
great.
I don't think was that your first one. But
He's been the most of
he's been
them.
to most of them.
Oh, I got that one. Okay. Wait a minute. I like this. Which one did you do, Wayne?
That one right there.
I know I got that one. I ain't got this one
That one was
either.
before that one.
I ain't got this one either. I know I got Dark Forest.
Yeah.
That's it. Hey.
Well, they're gonna miss you, Margaret. You stop doing this.
Yeah, but I'm still around. And
Oh, yeah.
to be quite honest with you, December 1st is our last one. And we are gonna open it up to all of our guest speakers to come back and join us. So, yep. But of course, Craig wants to very much. All right. Good to just be on the safe side.
These screens, I can't even tell. What do you want, Michael? You want both of them? Okay.
I ain't got them.
Now you got them.
No, I got the first one and the second
Now
one.
you got these.
I knew you put third, fourth.
Yeah, this one, I've written 10. So this is my 9th and 10th.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're illiterate, like I am. You can't really read. That's crazy.
That's what God does.
That's insane.
Now you got 9 and 10.
Yeah. Take a donation, right?
You sure you can afford that?
Not really. Are you sure? Okay. Thank you. You appreciate it.
All right, brother.
Okay. Thank you.
Now we're talking about your French girl here. She almost came tonight. When she was at the investigation, when
Books.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we're live streaming here.
Yes, we are.
Mike Beck's in the house.
All right.
Yeah, how you doing?
And we're glad to be here. Thank you very much to Margaret for putting this event on and Inspired Ghost Tracking. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it. Love Margaret. She's been a close friend of mine for many, many years, and love everybody that is a part of this. So it's my honor and pleasure to always be here for these things. And maybe I'll be back here again with Margaret in December, so we'll see. Des, we never know.
Yep. You got Katie that says hi, Reverend Bill, and Killian says hi, Bill.
Hi,
Cupcake
guys.
paper, yeah.
Love you guys. Killian's joining us from France. Killian LeCavalry from France. So we have a good live stream going here. It's awesome. We're going to do a live warrior mode tomorrow night, 11 p.m. Eastern. Obviously, we can't do the warrior mode tonight. We're doing a version of here. But I thought it was important that we not skip a week. And so we're going to do warrior mode tomorrow night, 11 p.m. Eastern. So I hope all of you can join us then. And we look forward to it.
Killian said he'll be there, and
Awesome.
got some people. Yeah, good.
Fantastic. And I'm so happy that Des, she handles all this. She's a genius. She knows how to, I can't do anything when it comes.
We leave here. He's
I
going
saw
to,
through photographs.
I'm going to meet
Before
him
we
double
moved into
T.
that house in
Those are
1968,
101.
1969, there was
We normally have
something there.
1-on-1 till 3
So,
o'clock
yeah.
freaking morning.
Yeah,
we
and you
got
made it.
in,
Yeah, same here.
You know, into
Yeah.
the
In fact, I got.
that's when
I'm
we
here.
started to escalate.
Yeah, he's.
Father
Okay,
Allen, he was
thank
a
you.
great
Nice
man.
meeting
He
you.
really loved
Thank
my
you
mom
for
and
the hug.
cared
I
about
really
her.
appreciate it. I knew him, man.
And
Because
I
I used
just,
to.
Right.
It's like across from
Kind of
Wendy's.
easy. But
no.
thank you very
Fully
much.
Trinity.
I know you're busy.
Yeah.
I know you're busy.
I was just
That
trying
is
to.
on,
I know you're busy.
what is that,
It's
Margaret?
right.
That
Talk for a few more, or
I can. That's up to you. Whatever you want.
we're good till 9.
All right. Well, I'll talk for a few more.
All right.
And ask for some of these.
I have to get a picture. I got the phone ready. I pressed the red dot.
I'm glad you guys came. Funny how things come in, right? With Nephilim and all that. Ask me some questions. Hey, brother.
Now, if you could just come down my light.
She's already there.
That's not funny. That thing's coming to me.
I'm not kidding. Wait a minute, I might have turned my head on that. I laughed when he said soda's dynamite.
Let's make sure.
That's another story.
Perfect. Are you hungry now, Bill?
I'm ready.
Okay, is everybody else?
I'm pulling Maria's hair. I'm trying not to.
Now, we know you are. You said you're doing it on purpose.
It's his thing.
All right.
Margaret, I'm ready. When you're ready, I'm ready.
I'm gonna holler. I'm gonna get them. All right, hey y'all. We're gonna start back. Have a seat. Looks like we lost the whole
Some people like to talk.
thing. I was here while laying away.
I'm so glad you guys came. Finally, what hurt you? Finally, things have a way of coming around.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna go? I'm probably gonna go to double T.
All right, Bill, it's all yours.
And you spell your name L-I.
M-A-R-I.
That's right. That's right. I can't believe it, brother. Finally.
I know.
He said to me so many times, you gotta meet her. You gotta meet her. I said, I want to meet her. Well, I brought it full circle. If only my handwriting were good, I would be complete. It's caveman 101. Here's what it is.
You're the doctor of demonology.
Well, you know, it's funny because when I would go to a doctor as a kid, they would say, he's got doctor handwriting. He's going to be a doctor. You're welcome, Maria. I'm so. All right, Superfly's back here. We're ready to get back into the swing of things. Oh. No. All right, guys, we're going to come back in with a few more here. Questions? We had a great dialogue there. Ask me some of these questions.
So like the skeletons or skeletons that were found in the Americas here, like under the mound.
Still find them.
Right.
Yep.
You think that those would be like descendants of Nephilim, or?
I do believe that. I really do, because how can I say this? The winners write the history books. So there are those who kept us in the dark throughout our lifetimes, teaching us certain things, but not all things. And so Jesus said, seek and you will find. But you have to have that motivation to do so. So when I started the transformation in my life, I was seeking knowledge, and I wanted to know anything and everything. And it brings us right back to this topic right here, which is a fascinating topic, that these giants really did exist and still do. There are places on the earth where these giant beings still exist, and they are in remote places on the earth, but they're very real. And they were very prominent during a certain historical time. So if you had dinosaurs roaming the earth, just imagine these giant beings that there have been skeletons found up to 36 feet tall Can you imagine that? A supposed human being, 36 feet tall? They find skeletons like this all the time, anywhere from 9 feet to 36 feet tall. Now let that sink in for a second. The Nephilim, the Nephilim were the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, who were cast out. Fallen angels were cast out of heaven with Satan. So they were part of the rebellion. And when they came down here, they took human women and produced a hybrid offspring, which became the Nephilim, these giants. And I'm convinced that these giants had unnatural sex acts with the beasts of the field as well. And that is what we know, have come to know, as the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Sabe creatures. They're every bit as much supernatural as they are flesh and blood. I have had personal experiences with them, and I've had experiences where something went invisible and came within 20 feet of me. This was 2 years ago at my home. I was waxing my car out in the parking lot of where I live, and I'd say probably maybe 40, 50 feet from where my car was. There's so 3/4 of where we live is surrounded by a wooded area, and there is a ravine 40 to 50 feet in back of where I was waxing my car. And it was a bright sunny day, hot summer day, and I heard something very large moving down in that ravine. Something very heavy, snapping branches, leaves rustling, all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden I heard it was like 2 pieces of slate being scraped together like this. And then clack, 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 clack. Clack, 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 clack. It was trying to get my attention, obviously, and it got my attention. So I'm looking. Now, having come from a life of trauma and living in fear as a young boy and a young man, who God saved me and took that from me, I'm a warrior, and I live that in each and every day of my life, no matter where I am. So I don't have any fear. I don't have any fear of anyone or anything except for God. So I was not going to run away in fear. It had my attention. I was looking, and it continued to do it. And then at one point, I kid you not, as crazy as some of this stuff may sound, I assure you everything that I'm saying is true. This entity, I did not see it, but I'd say probably from here to maybe where that doorway is, it was approaching. And I couldn't see it, but it actually did the clack, 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 probably within 20 feet of me, and then retreated back and went down the hill and did it down there again. So whoever or whatever that was, and I do believe that it was a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Sabe creature being. They were trying to get my attention, and was bold enough to come, within 20 feet of me, invisible, but yet still making the slate clack together like that. I'll never, ever forget it. And at another time, I came out I have 2 vehicles, and I came out to my truck one day, and there was a potato-sized rock on the bumper, carved out in the shape of a heart that was placed on the back bumper of my truck. And then another time, I came out, and these beings are known to make weavings out of branches and all that kind of stuff. And I came out one day, and there was a weaving placed on my truck as well. So they are known to do these kinds of things. Now, I'm telling you my opinion. I believe they come from the Nephilim, which are fallen angels, which are evil. However, in my experiences, I have had positive encounters with some of these beings. I don't think they're all bad, and I can't explain it, but I think it's just like people. Some people are good, and others are evil, and maybe they have free will just like we do to choose to do good or evil. But I'm telling you that I've had I've had other experiences where I felt like my life could be in danger. And Desiree is here to corroborate this. Was this last year, Des, or the year before? I was, I believe the month was February. I was near my home. I'm in my truck. I'm going down this road called Truman Parkway. And I look to my right and I see this tree. It was broken. No man could break a tree like that. And so I pulled over.
Oh, yeah.
I got out. Was that last year?
It was last year,
Okay.
and it might have been around February.
Okay, last February. So I get out of my truck. I go to the side of the road. Now there's a wooded area right off the road. I never left the road. For some reason, it was like God was keeping me like right here. He wouldn't let me move any further past that point. And I took out my phone. I started taking pictures. I even shot some video. Now, I did not see anyone or anything there while I was done. I really did, thinking about it now, I said to Des, I said, well, I had no idea that it was right there, and I really had no idea that it was right on top of me. But thinking back on it now, I could feel a presence, and it was weird how God was just keeping me on that pavement, on that road, and not letting me cross that. Well, I got the footage, got back home and looked at it, and I was shocked. I was astounded to see that there were these creatures, these Bigfoots right there. I had no idea. I did not see them. They were right there. I sent the footage to Desiree. She's expert with all this kind of stuff, analyzing and editing and all that. And she really got it to come out
Right.
more
So
clearly.
I totally inverted it. I tweaked the curves. I desaturated it. I did all the different type of color corrections to try to take it apart and then isolated each, objects and dissected it because I couldn't believe it. And there's no way I know Bill even is sorry, no, not offensively, but is remotely savvy with Photoshop or
I
anything.
wouldn't have a clue.
That would be a miracle right there if you would. So
I don't have a clue. Look, I still carry a flip phone.
Yeah,
I don't have
he's
a
a
clue
flip phone
about
man.
the technology of these things.
So it's interesting, like
There's-
most sightings that you hear about or see on TV or whatever, they're always in the wilderness, right?
Not anymore.
But you're saying you were obviously in a residential area.
Yeah, and I find, and if you do some research on this, you're going to see that more and more now, these beings are coming in residential areas and even into some city areas, they're being sighted. And so there's a reason for this. Now, what the reason is, I can't say for sure. I think, again, this is strictly my opinion. Perhaps it is something to do with what I believe that we are in the last days. That's my opinion. And if that's true, then all these things are being revealed now, and they're coming in closer and closer and closer. So that veil between worlds is really thinning now to the point to where I think we're going to start seeing some things. That's why so many people now see UFOs, on a regular basis. You can see these stories every single day now in the mainstream media of people capturing UFOs, and it's not just somebody on their farm. You've got 100 people in a city now that are standing there and they're capturing these objects. So I do believe that A, it's all tied together, and B, it is indicative of the times that we are in.
There was an episode on one of the Bigfoot shows where, they were tracking the Bigfoot, sensing cameras and things like that. And the first I heard of this multi-dimensional association was on one of those shows.
Yeah.
Where they were actually, you saw, they had some heat signature and it just disappeared.
And-
they were so close.
And so that goes right back to what I'm saying, that these beings are every bit as much supernatural as they are a flesh and blood creature. And I find it also interesting that in a lot of these cases, to where some people will get a footprint a footprint and go, wait a minute now. How could this thing, if it's 8 feet tall or 7 feet or what, and it made one footprint? Perhaps, and again, this is just my speculation on it, maybe they have to take one step before going invisible. Maybe that is a principle on how they operate. I can't say for sure, but I can tell you this. Not only did I capture those faces, and at one point, I even looked at the video, never saw it, but yet probably from here to the end of this table, that being had to be at least 8 feet tall, and it was standing right there, camouflaged in with the trees. I had no idea it was there.
It was like the Predator movie, the way it was like reflective in and camouflage. That totally looked like that. It was.
Yeah, and I'm wondering now, and again, I'm going out on a limb because I don't have the answers for these things. Nobody really does. But I'm wondering if this does tie in with some of the missing cases, like David Paulides has that missing 411. He wrote the books, and he's a former police officer that goes investigating these cases of people disappearing in national parks or in other places. I'm wondering if it is something like that, to where if the person crosses a certain threshold, now they are subject to being taken into some type of portal or whatever it may be. It's very interesting. I'm glad I didn't find it out, because I really don't want to find that answer out unless I can come back. So, but it was really sobering and a confirmation that God was really with me and for me, because if you, and really, I guess I should have brought that footage with me. If I come back in December, I'll bring it. But Des, when she looked at it, and then when she was able to bring even more detail out, I was even more astounded and even more thankful to God, because I could have stepped into something that could have been fatal. Who knows what could have happened at that point had I left the road and went into that. I might not be here right now. So it's a very interesting topic, like all these topics. It's a deep rabbit hole. For me, I always pray first and ask God to lead me into truth and to help me to find truthful and accurate information. The information is there. Seek and you will find. But you really gotta seek earnestly. If you really want to know answers and you want to know truth, you really, really got to dig, and you'll find it.
That wasn't intimidation of any sort, was it? You think?
I don't think so, because to be honest with you, I can't be intimidated. I have, and I'm not saying that on my own accord, I'm saying by the power of God working through me. I've had people throughout my lifetime. I've been in many life-threatening situations. I worked in the bar business for 22 years before being the spiritual warrior. I was a physical warrior, and I had people try to stab me. I disarmed a gunman that already fired the gun a couple times. I had it to the back of the head of somebody. I've been hit with bottles, you name it. And I mean, Mike can tell you, I've been through lots of things. And I praise God for keeping me safe there as well. Had somebody try to stab me in my femoral artery one time, try to slash my face first, and then stab me in my femoral artery. And I thank God I was able to overcome that. But even as a minister and a spiritual warrior, I have been in the homes of people to where a person handed me their gun and said, I want to shoot you right now. And I took the gun from them. They handed me their gun. They wanted to shoot me. People tried to stab me. A person tried to slash me with a shard of glass about that long. People tried to bite me. They've spoiled me. They've struck me. And I've been through all those situations. And through it all, God has helped me to maintain control of the situation. So I can't show any fear. Because if you're in a situation where you're trying to help somebody as a representative for God and you show fear, it's over. It's over for you. It's over for the people that you're trying to help. And the devil has a belly laugh because he's got a victory. So I have to stay in control no matter what. And secondly, I have to keep everybody safe, including the person that's trying to hurt me. Because if they are taken over by demons, they are not personally trying to hurt me. It's those demons working through them to try and bring me harm. So I can't show any fear. And I thank God for that, because there have been situations. I'm going to mention one quick situation. Des, I know you have to go. I performed an exorcism for a lady in Gettysburg on, it was in 2014, I think. and a severe case of demonic possession. Now, after the deliverance exorcism was over with, she was freed from the demons that possessed her. However, it's not over from there. I have to, after that, baptize the person. And then we sit down and we put a game plan together for that person's life and moving forward. So at that point, I become a counselor. And we have to talk about eliminating some things that might open the doorways for this to happen again. And we have to put a game plan together for that person to move forward, trading the fear in for faith. So with traumas established, people live in the fear-based, trauma-based way of thinking and living. You have to trade that for what I call warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage. And then after that, I have to get up and go through the entire home, making sure that there are no demons hiding or lurking anywhere in the home or on the property. So this is a very involved process. And so when this was happening at this particular residence in 2014, very large home, I had gone through the entire home except for the attic area. And I got there, and it was a very large, wide set of steps that went into the attic, which was being converted into like a master bedroom. I go up the stairs to my right. It's there's a lamp there. It's light. I go over, I bless that section first, clear it. Then the other side on the left, dark, completely dark. And on the right, there were windows. It was like a double window over to the right. No drapes or curtains or anything. And the moon was shining through that. So the only light was the moonlight coming in. I'd say probably from the edge of this table, maybe to the wall, between the window and that space, there was a ventilation shaft. So I get over near that ventilation shaft, and standing right in between the window and the ventilation shaft was a very tall being, at least 7 feet or more, black, hooded figure, red eyes, and it even had like, it looked like points, like wings folded in, like points coming past the shoulders. And so I'm standing, I had my Bible in this hand. I had a holy shaker, which is a mixture of holy water, holy oil, and holy salt. Sometimes I put frankincense in. Now think about what I'm saying to you. How many of you could stand there if you were faced with something like this that is probably within 6 feet of me? A lot of people would faint. Some people would run. Some people would soil themselves, and I could understand all of it. It was only by the power of God working through me that I could withstand that and stand there and not faint. And I recall saying, by the mighty power of Yahweh and his mighty and holy name, in Yahshua Jesus the Christ's name, I bind and rebuke you and command you to depart. And you got to be authoritative. You got to take power and authority over these things. You can't be meek and mild in this deal because they'll laugh at you. You have to be authoritative. And so I shook that thing 3 times at it, and that entity let out a screech like I have never heard before or since. It was so loud that it rattled the windows in the house, and it departed.
I'm sorry, I mean,
No.
what is your take on Ouija boards and why? As far as doing other type of investigation versus, doing Ouija boards as part of your investigation?
I personally would never do that. I'll tell you why. Because the devil operates on legalities, free will. So we're free to make our choices. But if we freely choose to do something like a Ouija board, which I believe is an invocation tool, so it's an invitation through invocation. And if that's true, then the devil's going to exploit that, and he has a legal right to be there. And then it's going to require someone like me, by the power of God working through me, to evict those demons that have a legal right.
So is it using equipment, some sort of invocation?
I personally don't use anything like that. So you just have to be very, very careful. And look, I'm not against anybody. People are free to do whatever they want to do. I'm just telling you from personal experience I would never use anything like that. Just like when I go in to help somebody. Jeff can tell you, Desiree can tell you, I don't have it. I have a Bible. I have a cross. I have a mixture, a holy mixture of things. That's it. There's nothing else. I don't report anything because in most cases, when people are under that level of attack, they don't want to broadcast it. They don't want people to know that they're suffering in that way. So I wouldn't dare, unless they said to me, I want you to document it, which there's been a few cases of that. But for the most part, they don't want to document it. So I'm a caveman. I use very little. When it comes to technology, I'm not up on that, but I wouldn't recommend it. And same thing for those family members in my family that did that ritual invocation. If you're inviting the devil in, he's coming in and he's going to send demons in to kick the door in, and then there's going to be serious problems, and it's going to require an eviction. So I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what I don't do.
No, I've never done it. And I'm
Good for you.
curious, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, good for you.
Now, let me put my input on that.
Yeah.
Ouija boards in investigations do not belong. And unless you know what you're doing and you know how to open and close it properly, and I do mean properly, do not mess with them. If you know what you're doing, you've got somebody there that knows what they're doing, it's different. As far as the other equipment, anything can be used to open a portal.
Yeah.
So you do need to know what you're doing and don't ever mess with it in your home. Or you're gonna open your door and say, hey, come on in.
It's good advice. It's true. And Satan is the prince of the power of the air. Just read the scriptures. The prince of the power of the air, which means the airwaves. That goes back to frequency and vibration again. So he served as the choir director in heaven. He held a very lofty role as the choir director for Yahweh in heaven before his fall. But in being in that important position, he was privy to some secrets of God and some of his ways and some of the things that he does. And that is a manipulation of frequency and vibration. So Margaret's right, whatever it may be, a recording device or whatever it is, it can be used and manipulated by the devil and his demons. So we have to be very, very careful. Even like I watch very little TV. I don't watch the shows that I'm on. I don't watch any of it. I don't watch movies. So I'd say 99% of TV and movies I don't watch. But if I were to watch something like that, I would say, Yahweh rebuke thee in Jesus' name, I declare this portal closed. Because TVs, cameras, phones, all these things are portals. They can be used as portals, traveling devices. And again, this might sound like crazy talk, but I assure you it's not. And the devil can manipulate these things in order to get in. And once he's in, then it's going to be a battle to get him and those demons out.
It's interesting because I thought I read like Ouija boards originally were created. It was like a good thing, so people could communicate with their dead.
It is, but it depends on your intention. And the problem is, unless you know who you're sitting around with, I mean, I could invite 4 people over. And if one person has bad intention, that's gonna roll out all your good intentions.
I would never touch that. That is true.
Yeah, well, it comes from Baltimore. I think it was created in the
Yeah.
1890s
No.
in Baltimore.
If I can make a comment on Ouija boards, how many of those have we cleaned up after in our time?
Many.
Oh my gosh.
Me too.
You're holding a planchette in your hand and you are inviting whatever's over there to manipulate that planchette. You have invited him into your personal space.
Free will.
And that gives them a legal right
Correct.
to step in and manipulate you and your family and do all kind of horrible things. It might take 20 years because time doesn't matter to them. But it's going to happen.
It's true. And I can remember. And I want to say maybe 2014, 2013, 2014, a mother and daughter. And that too was among the most severe cases of abuse that I've ever seen in my career. And they were being physically abused and sexually abused by these demonic entities. the common thread is child molestation or some type of trauma, whether it's a violent type of upbringing where physical abuse or mental abuse took place. It's always something that breaks forth a great deal of trauma. And once that trauma is established, then these demonic entities will stay, like Jeff was saying. They'll stay, and then they'll create a variety of patterns of abuse throughout that person's lifetime until they're evicted. So they'll play the game. They know at some point they're going to be evicted, but until they're evicted, they're going to continue to try and create as much havoc and damage and trauma as possible. And in that case, recollecting on that right now, I just recall seeing that mother and daughter. It was almost like they were on their way to death. They were so beaten down, they didn't have hardly anything left. And I'm happy to tell you that God worked through me, and Jeff was there and to help them to move forward. And it was the greatest thing after the exorcism was over with, seeing the two of them, life coming back into their eyes and into their whole being, to where it looked like they weren't far away from death. And you remember it clearly, right?
Absolutely. Their eyes were absolutely resigned.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, we're done with this. We'll just wait until it run this course, and we're just not going to be here anymore.
And they were suffering regular sexual attacks from these demonic entities. It was just awful. And you could feel just approaching, even before I walked into the home, just approaching, you could feel the overwhelming presence of evil there. And that only intensified once I walked in the door and got in there. But it was among, I have to say, that would be among some of the more severe cases that I've been involved in. But also one of the most joyous cases after it was over with, to know that God brought life back to them and they were free from it. So I've forgotten so much, as I stand here and talk, little bits and pieces of different cases come in, but it's a blur. I'd have to go, even with this book here. Are we done? Oh, I thought that was my alarm that said, shut up.
That wasn't big.
But even in this book here, I had to go back through some of my case files, which I have, you wouldn't believe it. I mean, literally have files, and they're bulging files of all these cases. And I went back and looked at some of these things, and really it becomes a blur. You do so many, after a while, it's a blur. And there's a few that stick out, but for the most part, I'm just on to the next person. It's next, because there's always a next. There's always somebody in need. And even tonight, once I get home and get settled, I will be back to work, and there will be a ton more messages from people seeking help. So there's always the next person. So it is what it is. I'm thankful to God for working through me to help people. Go ahead, Margaret.
So we hear about all your success stories and all that. Has there ever been one that didn't work, or that something came back or anything?
Two painful failures that I could think of, and I wouldn't call it a failure, because at the time, God did work through me to deliver each of those individuals. However, and you can read the scriptures, if a person is delivered, their temple is clean. But if they go back and open the doorway to what they were doing, 7 more wicked demons than the original will come back, and that person is 7 times worse off than they were in the first place. And unfortunately, that's happened 2 times in my career, resulting in suicides both times. One was a military veteran that I helped in Sacramento, California. Really good guy, wonderful family. He had a wife and children, and unfortunately for him, the traumas of war just ate him up, and he went into a world of substance abuse to try and cope with that. I went out there. I did everything that I could do by the power of God working through me to help him. He seemed like he was delivered. He turned a corner and he was doing well for a while. And then all of a sudden, he went off the rails And things spiraled downward to the point where he ended up taking his life. And boy, I'll tell you, that still hurts to this day because I love people and I want to do anything that I can by the power of God working through me to help people. So when something like that happens, it's devastating to me. And then in another case, which was in Arkansas, I think that was 2016, 2017. Similar case, the man had a wonderful wife. They seemed to be faith-based, but he had addiction issues. And we thought that we had turned a corner. I had performed a deliverance over him, baptized him. Things seemed to be going well. And then all of a sudden, and this is through a behavioral pattern. So this is why I say we must eliminate the behavioral patterns, because if we don't, then we're going to revert back to those behavioral patterns. And unfortunately, in his case, that's what happened. He reverted back to that world, and ultimately, he took his life. And in both cases, just even to this day, it hurts. It eats me up because I want 100% success for everybody, you know, not just for me, but I want everybody to be okay and to move forward. So when things like that happen, Margaret, oh, it's painful. It's very painful. So yeah, and there have been other cases as well, specifically drug-related cases, to where the person will do good for a while, or if they're an alcoholic, they will do good for a while, and then all of a sudden, whatever it may be, something triggers that person to want to step back into that life where they were, and then they're fully immersed. You can't, I've had people say to me, well, you know, it's okay if I just have one. No, you're an alcoholic, and if you have one, that's going to lead to 10 or 12. Same thing with drugs. Oh, I can just smoke this joint, I'll be okay. No, you won't. And so this is what the devil does with the enticements and temptations, that a person will actually lie to themselves and think that they can step back into that and that they're going to be okay and unscathed. Doesn't work that way. And so in some cases, I've had to go back to people 4 and 5 times because they would revert back into their behavioral patterns, and they'd be fully immersed again, 7 times worse off than they were. And so I've gone to people like that many times over, and some eventually got it, and they're doing well, and others are not. I have one guy tell me, and I'm happy to tell you that he is free now, but at that point in time, he was not. And I kept pressing as to why are you doing this? Because this was a very educated man who was a counselor and found himself immersed in the drug life and became an addict, lost everything, had a wonderful family. And I pressed him and he finally said to me, because I love doing it. I love getting high, and I'm going to keep getting high. So that's the most honest thing you've said to me since I've been here. So it all comes down to choices. And we just pray that people will make the right choices, because if they don't, then they're going to suffer the consequences. And that is very, very sad. And I hate to see it. And I try to be there for everybody. But I've learned this as well, especially when it comes to addictions. You can love people. You could pray for them. You could try and support them, but you can't be their fool. And I've been the fool for some people. I've lost family members to drug overdoses. And I've been the fool to some people trying to help them because I was putting everything I had into trying to help them. They were using me. So it's a fine line. You got to be very careful not to be an enabler. Because if you're an enabler, they're going to use you until there's nothing more to use. And so we just have to be very sober and vigilant on that and keep our eyes open. And that's sad too. I've had to be firm with some people and say, look, if I can't be a blessing to you, then I'm not absorbing your curses. Sorry. Come back to me when you're sober. Come back when you want to make changes in your life. And then, by the power of God, we'll get this removed and you can move forward. Otherwise, nothing changes. It'll only get worse.
But you had a success story right here in Glen Burnie.
Yeah.
And didn't they follow in your footsteps?
Yes and no, Margaret. I don't know what to say about that other than, yes, you're right, part one. And unfortunately, that reverted back to a situation of abuse and addiction as well. And that's one of the cases where I said, look, you're not going to use me anymore. If I can't be a blessing to you, I'm not absorbing your curses. So people are free to make their choices, free will, but don't blame God when you make the bad choice and you're in the pit and your life was in the pit. Don't blame God for it. Blame yourself because you made those choices. So I pray for people like that. But there's nothing else that you can really do because you can't force anybody to do anything. And I found that even in my own family, when I was strongly trying to get the person to move away from addictions, they would absolutely hate me and do it even more. So the more I pushed and tried to save them, the more they were saying, pretty much thumbing their nose at me, saying, I'm going to do what I want to do because I can. So it's very sad. It's very tragic. I can tell you this from a personal standpoint. I absolutely despise drugs and alcohol. I can't stress that enough. I've been in that life. I could have very easily, been dead from alcoholism or drug abuse. I despise them, and I see them both as my mortal enemy, and that's what I try to get others to see as well. What a concept, right? You are paying somebody for their poison to put in your body to poison yourself, and you're paying for it. You're paying for it in mind, body, and spirit. So all we can do is pray for people. We pray that we can be a blessing. That is my agenda every single day of my life, that I can be a blessing to somebody and plant a good seed with somebody, but it ultimately comes down to the person's free will and choices. So go ahead, sir.
Is there a standard process you use for exorcism, or does it vary from person to person?
Yes and no, and that's a great question because, yes, there is a framework. However, God does have me to do things a little differently, seemingly for each person, for each case. I guess it's more personalized to that person. I can tell you, this wasn't an exorcism. This was a call for help, and this happened about 7 years ago. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I was online. I got a message, an email from someone saying, Bill, it was so great knowing you. Love you. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, where are you going? And the person said that they couldn't take it anymore. They were going to kill themselves. And I said, look, here's my number. Sent the email. I said, call me right now. The guy calls me. He's crying uncontrollably, just absolutely devastated, heartbroken. He had lost a loved one, and he didn't want to live anymore. And so now you got to be very careful in a situation because this is as fragile as it gets. This is a person that potentially could be on the edge to ending their life. So if you say one wrong thing, could push them over the edge. So I'm praying as I'm talking with this individual, asking God to give me something, a word to give to this man that will bring him back off the ledge. And sure enough, during the course of the conversation, this man was wailing. I got him to stop. I told him to stop it. I said, God is silence. He paused. I guess he thought about what I said. He said, you know what? You're right. I am a warrior. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to take. And I heard this big clump. He had a gun in his hand. He was going to shoot himself in the head while he's talking with me on the phone. And that changed that man's life. God gave me a word to give to him to bring him back. And then there's been other situations to where one that comes to mind was a very prominent doctor in America that was ready to commit suicide. And late one night, he was flipping through the channels and saw me on one of these TV shows. He reached out, and next thing you know, I'm on a plane going to him. And God showed me as I was performing this exorcism, and I didn't see this. God showed it to me. It's like this serpent wrapped around him, like wrapped around his arm, burrowing into his armpit. And so I didn't say anything to him, and I performed the exorcism over him, and it was successful. After it was over with, I followed that with baptism. After it was over with, he said to me, now I still hadn't told him what God showed me. He said to me, he said, I felt like there was this serpent wrapped around my arm. He told me exactly what God showed me. There's no explanation for anything like that, and I don't claim to be anything. But I can tell you this, that God does give me a knowing of things, and he will either give me a word or a picture or something to be a help to somebody. That's miraculous. So, Margaret, are we at that point now? I could go all night long, and I want to thank all of you for being here. I truly appreciate you guys, and God bless all of you. And we'll do this again. Margaret's invited me to come back in December with other speakers, and so maybe we'll do this again in December. Till that time, thank you.